I'm gonna take one more. Shannon, do you have time or
Yeah,
no?
sure. I
Okay, we're
mean,
gonna take one more, and this one is gonna be um, we're gonna do Clarence. Clarence,
oh, Clarence.
hey Clarence, he came out of Ohio teaching critical thinking and skepticism. You're doing that? Tell us about it.
Oh, no, I just want to talk about some of the dilemmas of trying to teach that. Um,
Okay.
Before I get into that, I would just like to
Mm,
really very briefly clarify my position on something that came up in discussion previously regarding Shannon. And I just want to clarify that I do and always have, I am and always have been pro-choice. I fully support a woman's a right to obtain, without any obstacles or having to jump over any hurdles, a woman's right to obtain a coffee table.
Yes, Clarence. That's an
I just
inside
want
joke, but
to
I am down for it. I am down for it. I hope Paul's in the other room, like just moaning in pain right now because I win. I'm winning the internet right now.
I just want to
Thank you.
mention that secular minimalism is a slippery slope, and it's just one step away from religious asceticism. And so,
What do you mean by secular
yeah.
minimalism?
What is that?
Oh,
I'm not
Paul. Yeah, that's a problem. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Clarence. On to your call.
That's all I have to say on that. Okay.
Okay.
What I basically wanted to talk about is the dilemma of teaching critical thinking and skepticism. In fact,
Yeah.
one of the previous callers mentioned that, where can I learn critical thinking, or how can we teach critical thinking to children? One thing that I previously talked about with you, Shannon, one good resource for teaching critical thinking to children are stories that teach critical thinking. Like, for example, I was talking about how fables can serve to, not all fables, but some fables. For example, The Boy Who Cried Wolf kind of teaches, a logical progression of why you shouldn't lie, as opposed to you shouldn't lie because I said so. So that's just one possible resource for that.
I like that. Yeah.
And I have found that, like, I was fortunate in that I went to a high school that offered, a public high school that offered a lot of classes that some high schools didn't. Like, I had the opportunity before going to college to take things like introduction to philosophy, comparative religion, semantics, logic, critical thinking, skepticism, stuff like that.
I wish they would teach those as mandatory courses in high schools.
I did it. Yeah. I did it at my Catholic school. I had those classes. Yeah.
And
I wish that those would be mandatory.
I don't know how they taught it in Catholic school, but in public school, that was always taught from an objective point of view. For example, my philosophy teacher, he at no point advocated for a particular philosophical viewpoint. He wasn't there for that. He was there to teach us the methodology, if you will, of philosophy. And especially comparative religion. I mean, my comparative religion teacher wasn't there to advocate for any particular religion. If she had, that would have been a serious problem in a public school. And so these are all taught from kind of a neutral position. And something that I think may be a problem is, and Shannon, you know where I'm coming from on this, is that I'm just seeing so many people who are atheists, particularly new atheists, who have adopted atheism, but somehow they haven't adopted the critical thinking and skepticism that should go along with that. And I think maybe the atheist activists and so-called influencers are not doing a great job in that area. I mean, it's one thing teaching. There's a whole idea of teaching people how to think as opposed to what to think. And I see a lot of like atheist activists are, kind of spoon feeding arguments against theism, like, well, if the apologist says this, then you say that. If the apologist counters with this, then you say that. And that's not really teaching people how to think. It's teaching them, it's giving them kind of prepackaged arguments. And so
you need to start a YouTube channel, Clarence.
Yeah.
Like, for real. Like, we've talked about this so many times, and I've said this to you so many times. It all entirely depends on what your motivation is towards activism. Not everybody who is in this sphere is doing it because that is their goal. Some people have that goal of, affecting community level change. Some people want to like be advocates for specific groups. Some people want to specifically do education, and we need all kinds. I would agree with you that there are some people who maybe do it more poorly and some people do it better from my perspective. But that's not to say that being exposed to somebody who I think isn't doing a great job doesn't have an impact on somebody who isn't me, right? Because everybody receives messages in a different way. It's so easy to look at the landscape and be critical and say, well, the people that I'm being presented with, I think they should do things differently. I think that they should be what I want and need them to be. They shouldn't be what they currently are. They should be like this. Like, you can't get people just through saying, I think, as an amalgam, the atheist community isn't doing X and should be doing X. Like, throw your hat in the ring. Like, go do that.
Yeah.
Like, be the change you want to see in the world. And I get that you're not saying that it's necessarily me or Johnny that you're speaking to, but I hope you don't think that me and Johnny can go to like the Atheist Consortium where we all gather around the Atheist Justice League table and tell each other what we should do on our like YouTube channels, because that's just like not a thing that
The
exists.
jamboree.
We don't have.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. The Atheist Jamboree.
I'm not suggesting that. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, and I have no problem with I mean, for example, I think this show today has been really excellent, and it has really been a series of good conversations.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's good, and it has its place. But somehow, this isn't, that's almost a separate issue. I have no problem with that. But what I'm seeing is I'm just encountering so many atheists that are just terrible critical thinkers, and they are just as irrational as
they're humans.
The theists.
Because they're humans. Clarence, let me stop you there. Message received. I want to talk about this, but I'm going to let you go because we are 15 minutes over. Real quick. Message received. Thank you so much. And don't take my cutting you off as a disagreement with you in any way. But we got a limited time.
Let's talk to you again, Clarence.
Yeah. You're still there. Shannon and I are two voices in a much larger community. We're two people who are on YouTube right now, and it exists other places on the internet as well. There are other voices who are doing this kind of work. There are people who are out in political spheres. There are people who are in person doing various things. We are not the atheist community. We are just members of the atheist community. I want to speak for Shannon. Shannon is not the end all be all of all atheism. I certainly am not. I'm just some dude. You are too. And so, Clarence, if you want to make that change, go ahead and do it. If you think that there's something missing, go ahead and fill that void. But you're absolutely right that there is, I've noticed this as well, an absolute lack of critical thinking worldwide amongst believers and amongst non-believers in the concept of a deity. Some people tune into this show and other shows like it because they want to see people who lack belief in God fight with people who do, because they have been traumatized, because maybe they're not good public speakers, because they can't do it for various reasons. Some people do it because they want to learn so that they can prepare. Some people just want catharsis. And But there are others who have various reasons why they do it, and so I don't think that the way that non-believers can have a fair shake in the world is by necessarily fighting at all times. There's a lot of work to be done, but again, like Shannon said, like I think the chat has been saying, get out there and do it. Start a channel, write a book, talk to your friends and family members. And if you don't see what you like on YouTube, stop watching. Watch something else, because we are just a very public version of a much larger community. So, and you know, that's that.